Namaste, this is Ananta Ripa Ajmera, and welcome back to the True to Yourself podcast, a place where we explore the power of authentic living. Today, I am going to talk to you about living a grateful lifestyle. During the holiday season that many of us are in around the world, where the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer, it can bring up a lot of dark emotions and heavy feelings and sadness, melancholy, depression. We might be thinking about all those things that we didn't do this year or all the things that went wrong this year and just feeling generally quite frustrated and despondent. Fortunately, we have a beautiful antidote to this feeling in the form of gratitude. The practice of gratitude and the experience of the emotion of gratitude is considered the parent of all other virtues according to the ancient Vedic spiritual tradition. When we feel grateful, when we give back out of gratitude, we automatically become into alignment with all other virtuous behaviors, values, and positive, uplifted, high vibration emotions. Gratitude, in fact, is considered so important in the Vedic spiritual tradition that our ancient Vedic scriptures have outlined 5 daily practices or sacred offerings called yajnas or yagnas that all non-monastic, regular, everyday people are recommended to make. Making these 5 sacred offerings in profound gratitude and appreciation towards all of the entities of this earth is the purpose of the practice of yajna. In this episode, we will go through each of these 5 yajnas and how you can start to practice them to lead a happier, healthier, more spiritual, and more grateful lifestyle, which will automatically connect you with the indwelling joy that is your true nature. The 5 yajnas are daily ways to express profound gratitude. The daily aspect of this practice is really important. When we do things daily, we become consistent in them. When we are consistent in any kind of action, those actions start to build up a force field and they yield the greatest power in a similar way that water flowing in a single direction generates a force field. The first offering that we are asked to make is to give back to our ancestors. Pitra Yajna is the practice of honoring this human body and this human birth that we have, which was gifted to us by our parents and our grandparents and their parents. Even though many of our ancestors may have made mistakes or done things that, we really don't agree with, it is still really, really important to honor them in our hearts, because without them and without their sacrifices, we would have never received our human birth. The human birth is the highest possible birth because it gives us the opportunity to evolve spiritually and potentially to complete the entire cycle of birth and death so that your soul can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. This is a huge, huge gift. It is said in one of the Vedic spiritual texts that the first gem of life is a human birth. And secondly, the association with a teacher who can guide you to know your true self. And finally, the deep yearning for liberation, which then leads you to follow the guidance of a soul who is able to steer you onto the path that leads you back to the real you, to your highest and truest self with a capital S. So even though we may have difficult relationships with some of our ancestors, even though we may be actively rewriting some ancestral scripts that involved a lot of trauma or a lot of scarcity or a lot of excessive behaviors that we don't agree with, it is still really important that if we have living ancestors, we pray for them. Depending on our situation, we could also send them a card, visit, or help them out however we possibly can. This also extends to being able to give thanks to them in our hearts in whatever way that we can. Even just that simple action of giving thanks to our parents for the gift of our human body and our human birth and the opportunity to evolve and grow itself is a very, very important thing to do for our mental health. It connects us to the entire chain of those beings by which we have this opportunity to be here and be in the now. That's why it's so important that even if we needed to distance ourselves from our family members or from our parents for whatever reason, we in our hearts truly feel our oneness with them, and we truly feel our gratitude towards them for whatever good they have done towards us and for whatever gifts they have given us in addition to this human body. Next, we receive so much from Mother Earth. Mother Earth gives us the bounty of nature, food that we eat, trees, the air, oxygen that fills our lungs, sunshine that makes our days brighter. Mother Earth gives us everything. She gives us company. She gives us laughter and joy from animals. She gives us beautiful sunrises and sunsets and oceans that are so vast that they can't help but remind us of just how small we are in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Mother Nature is constantly modeling for us the entire cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, because every day she gifts us a new beginning. Every day the sun rises and shines, not because it's seeking approval for doing so, but simply because that is the nature of the sun. And even if we're not able to see the sun, or if it's raining one day, we must always remember that the sun is still there. In a similar way, our soul is always there. Our soul is always awaiting our own recognition, even though we are unable to see it. In this way, Mother Nature is the greatest metaphor to us of our own nature. Mother Nature models everything for us. When we study nature, we have the opportunity and the ability to really understand our own nature and the nature of all living beings. The ancient Vedic seers or sages spent their entire lifetimes simply observing nature to see what is it that we can learn from nature. From observing nature, they have been revealed the entire practice of yoga asanas. The yoga poses that we do are named after animals. We practice downward facing dog, the cat cow, the cobra pose, lion's pose. All of these poses, including the tree pose, are really there to connect us with nature. The sages have observed how nature is constantly renewing itself and how nature never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. When we observe nature, we receive everything that we need. Nature in Ayurveda is considered the highest healer. Therefore, we are asked to give back to our mother in nature by recycling, by planting trees, by caring for plants, by composting our foods, by supporting threatened animals, and donating to organizations that uplift the well-being of our beloved planet Earth. Next, we are asked to give back to the source of our spiritual knowledge. Brahma Yajna is the sacred giving back of knowledge, and the best way to give back in terms of the knowledge we have received is to share it with others. We study spirituality and we study these great truths of the great sages so that we may then transform our entire lives and really know our true self. And when that awakening of who we really are blossoms in our every interaction, in our every decision, in our every thought, word, and action, or more and more, we can say, then it is only natural to overflow with gratitude for that gift of knowledge. From a place of feeling gratitude, we are asked to share the knowledge with others. This may mean teaching for some people. It may simply mean being an ambassador for people to come into contact with knowledge in whatever way. It may be a practice of what is known as vidya dan, or giving the opportunity to someone else to receive knowledge by pointing out to them perhaps a wonderful book that has really touched you, or perhaps you gift someone a beautiful spiritual book or spiritual teachings that have really changed your life, or encourage them to join some kind of a structured program where they can go deeper into learning about spirituality to better their life in some way. The best way we can give back for this knowledge, which truly sets us free, is by spreading it to others. It should never just remain within oneself. It is meant to be shared with one and all. And if we are blessed to have found a spiritual teacher who speaks to the depths of our being and truly is able to guide us through darkness and towards light, then giving back in some way to this soul is very beneficial to not only express gratitude, but also to even deepen your own knowledge. I can definitely say from personal experience that giving back to different teachers in my life has really, really helped me to learn in such a more profound way to really live a spiritual life. And it just feels very relieving to do this. Even giving back to nature in small ways, like recycling everything, making it a point to compost, even though it's not convenient at all to compost my food in New York City, just makes me feel better. It makes me feel relieved that, okay, I'm taking the effort. I'm actually making a sacrifice of my own time and comfort and convenience here to actually give back to Mother Earth. I make it a point to keep in touch with my parents. And now I'm fortunate that they are attending my online classes, and, it's a lot of fun to have them there. But I feel that it's very important to have that connection remain alive in whatever way that flows. During the pandemic, it wasn't possible to visit them for a long time, but I felt that with the practice of Pitra Yajna, or giving back to ancestors, and with the invention of technology, I was able to really express gratitude towards them in terms of connecting more regularly and inviting them to join the different classes and teachings that I was offering online. And it really brought us closer together. And that is such a beautiful feeling to have, and to be able to deepen that connection in a way that gives back to those who have given me this life and this body and this opportunity to grow and evolve spiritually. That brings us then to the next yajna, which is called Manushya Yajna, or the sacred offering that we give to humanity in need. This is a very, very important yajna. This is the practice of seeing if there is any way that we can support any person who is truly in need and has no other way of having whatever you may gift them. For example, a person who is experiencing hunger and is begging on the streets really has no other way to experience a warm meal but for what you can offer to them. When you offer a warm meal to a person who has no means to ever give you back a warm meal, it is a true yajna. It is a true giving. It is a true expression of gratitude for all the many sacrifices that many people we don't even know have made that make our day-to-day interactions and life possible. For example, I would not be able to record this podcast for you had it not been for someone who I don't even know, who invented a microphone and created this amazing way to record audio, transmit audio, and then share it with countless beings who can then listen to it all over the world through the internet. So the internet, the microphone, the podcast platforms, the social media to be able to share the knowledge, these are all from actions and sacrifices and gifts of humanity. And therefore, if I see a member of humanity who is truly in need, then it is my way of saying thank you to those who have made my day-to-day conveniences and opportunities possible, such as even recording this podcast, to give to those who are truly in need. It is really important to know that there is a distinction between humanity in need and humanity that may not be in need. We can, for example, give a warm meal to a friend, and this is not considered a yajna. It's not considered a sacred offering of, or a sacrifice rather, in the Vedic spiritual tradition. It's a very warm and beautiful and loving and generous thing to do that you can definitely do in a most sacred manner. However, to qualify as an act of giving back in gratitude, we are revealed that it's important to give to a person who has no way to give back or reciprocate to you. When you give a warm meal, for example, to a person who is hungry, there is no possibility, or most likely very little possibility, that that person is really going to give it back to you, right? A friend who you offer a beautiful meal to in a sacred way can give back to you, can reciprocate, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful gift of friendship, but it's different from being a true service in gratitude back to humanity, because we need to give to humanity who is truly in need. That's why we have to do some discernment in terms of our giving to humanity to really see how can we support those who have no other way of receiving whatever it is we have to give. Now, finally, we are asked to give back to the divine. We need to give our deep gratitude and thanks to the presence of divine beings. Obviously not for their sake. There is no God or no goddess out there who is just waiting for your prayers and is going to punish you if you don't pray to them in the way that is expected at the right time and in the right place. According to the Vedic spiritual tradition and to the sacred practice of yajnas, we give gratitude to the divine to awaken the divine within us. It is for our own evolution that we give thanks to this divine essence and consciousness that is holding all living beings and all things in every moment of every day. There is a divinity that shapes our ends. It cannot be denied, although we may try and we may not decide to accept it. When we are on a spiritual path, however, we are acknowledging this divinity and we are really giving our deep thanks for every opportunity that we have to be alive, to receive teachings, to be able to have the gift of our human life and our human body and the ability to breathe in and breathe out. When we do simple things such as even lighting a candle every morning to honor divinity, or doing any other beautiful practice of a spiritual kind or of a wellness orientation that evokes that spiritual connection within you, it is a way to give thanks to that divine. When we give thanks, we receive the blessings of that divinity within our own selves. And therefore, we can recognize when we give thanks to the divine that it is the divine that is always present in our ancestors, in our teachers, in humanity, in nature. All of the living beings of this earth have a divine spark within them. And as we grow on our spiritual path, we begin to recognize and really honor that divinity within one and all. And this is what it means to be awakened spiritually. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita that when you are truly able to see that one divine essence in all living beings, you are seeing through the eyes of wisdom and through the eyes of true spirituality. There's a really beautiful verse from the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6 that expresses this. It says in chapter 6, verses 28 and 29, the infinite joy of touching Brahman, also known as Supreme Consciousness, is easily attained by those who are free of the burden of evil and established within themselves. They see the self, capital S, in every creature, and all creation in the self, with a capital S. With consciousness unified through meditation, they see everything with an equal eye. When we can see everything with an equal eye, we are seeing through a divine sight, and this is known as divya drishti. Our vision, drishti, becomes divya, divine, when we are able to see the one spiritual essence or the true self in every living being on this earth. And when we can do that, then we automatically become liberated from the burden of evil. There is actually no evil out there. There are no dark forces out there, but the evil within us that then projects evil outside and sees evil outside. When we relieve ourselves of the perception of evil within ourselves, when we conquer the dark forces within ourselves where we have internalized negative scripts and negative messages and negative beliefs, then we don't see that evil anymore in the world around us or in people or in situations. We just simply see the divine in every situation, in every person, in every being, and every opportunity, every moment, and every person becomes a teacher to us of divinity. It is all divinity within us, around us, and it is the divinity that truly shapes our ends and that brings us onto a spiritual journey. We come onto a spiritual journey because our ego somewhere remembers that there is more to us than we have currently recognized or identified with. The ego has this deep, deep memory deep down inside that somewhere it is whole, somewhere it is pure, somewhere it is truly divine. And so the whole search and the whole quest of a spiritual journey is simply to return back to our real nature. And I know I personally feel such deep gratitude towards all of the ancient seers and sages who have shown us this sacred path back to ourselves. This is the real meaning of yoga, to join back to your real self with a capital S. This is also the goal of all religions. Religare means to return back, and what we are returning back to is our real nature, to our divine nature. When we start to live a grateful lifestyle and we start to contemplate what is it that I can do to give back to my ancestors, even if they're no longer in their body, how can I just even say thank you every day to my ancestors? How can I give back to my teachers or to the sources of my knowledge so that I can express thanks for that gift of knowledge that sets me free? How can I give back to humanity who are truly in need? Who is truly in need? How do I connect with them? And what is it that I can offer to them from my heart? When I contemplate my relationship with this divine universe and Mother Earth, how can I give back to my mother in earth through my offering of caring for her beings, caring for animals, caring for plants, caring for even the waste, that it may be all recycled back and paid forward in a happy and harmonious and less destructive way. How then can I give back to this divine itself that gives me everything? In fact, there is nothing we can give to God. God is everywhere. God is everything. It is simply in giving thanks that we have the opportunity to realize that God lives within us. And that, my friends, is the gift of this lifestyle of giving back on a daily basis to all of the entities that have made our human body and this sacred opportunity to know who we really are possible in the first place. With that, I wish you a very beautiful and blessed holiday season, and I wish you the unfolding of a beautiful, divine, grateful lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining me on the True to Yourself podcast, a place where we explore the power of authentic living.